Hey there, so it's been a while since my last video, as it usually seems to go, but I just wanted to make this as a quick update and just let you know that yes, I am still alive, obviously, and doing pretty well. I just wanted to go over a few points here, a few ideas that have been on my mind lately, and it seems like there are more vegans now than ever dropping like flies from the vegan community or just dropping veganism. And maybe it's not now more than ever. Maybe it's just something that I've noticed over the last couple of years. But there's always going to be people like that who do. And a couple of things I've come to realize over the years is that number one, just because somebody claims to be vegan or calls themselves a vegan doesn't necessarily mean that they are a vegan, because let's face it, we just take somebody says that they're a vegan or they've been vegan for this many X number of years or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are vegan or that they have been vegan throughout that entire time. And that's not to say that that I that I'm some purist. And where do we draw the line for veganism exactly? Veganism, as it is clearly defined, is just doing the best you can to reduce the amount of harm and exploitation that we are inflicting on other living beings. If anybody else has a better, or more clear, concise definition than that, please let me know. But the problem is that, yeah, number one, we don't know if people really actually are vegan who say that they are vegan, or who say that they were vegan, who aren't vegan anymore, people who say that they were vegan for this many number of years. We don't really know, that we're just kind of taking their word for it. And number two, just because somebody actually is a vegan, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good, decent person. And certainly, I'm not saying that I'm infallible or that I'm some, saintly being or whatever. But um, I have committed myself, particularly over the last couple of years, the last few years, to a daily process of introspection, where I will observe these thoughts coming in, and things like this, these words, and sort of monitor things, and not necessarily overanalyze yourself to the point where you're gonna it can cause paralysis, but just holding yourself accountable, self accountability, and I feel like most people really don't have that. And people don't live their lives according to principles. They live their lives according to whimsical, feelings or ideas or emotions or whatever. And what I've come to realize is that me, as an individual, as a man, and as a soul, um, I need to live my life according to principles. I do my best to be a principled person, a principled individual. And if you don't live your life by principles, it gives more or credence to that saying, if you don't stand up for something, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be, open-minded or whatever. But I think the key is really just having a healthy open-mindedness along with a healthy skepticism, and a healthy process of introspection, like I said. And one of the things I've noticed is that so many people think in the vegan community, they think that veganism is like the end all be all. It's the ultimate solution to all these problems, which it's not. It's kind of ridiculous to think that it is. What good is having vegan options at the FEMA camps when we get shipped off to FEMA camps when we have martial law declared? You know what I mean? There's just so many other issues that need to be addressed, in addition to animal agriculture and how we treat animals, but also how we treat other people. But one of the things I've also come to realize is that it's easy to have compassion for animals. Why? Because animals don't, they're not going to give you shit. They're not going to talk back to you. They're not going to call you out on your bullshit. They're not going to cheat on you. They're not going to steal from you. They're not going to do these sorts of things. Now, that's not to say that I'm some, misanthropist, that I'm some misanthrope or misanthropist. I don't know what the exact word is, but certainly not, because I understand. I've come to realize that the animal kingdom, particularly in nature, is savage. It's brutal, like I said, what for every one lion cub that makes it to adulthood, or that makes it beyond 1 or 2 years of age, there's like 8 or 9 that get killed off in like probably really harsh, savage sort of ways. So this whole idea, this whole notion that, oh, if humans were just out of the picture, everything would just be this wonderful Garden of Eden. It's just a complete pile of horseshit. That's just not how it is in the world. So, a lot of these vegans are also nature worshippers, and non-vegans too, but that's more of a hippie type thing, I guess, or a new age. You see that in the new age type crowd where nature is my god. I'm like, well, good luck with that, because that's a pretty uh, that's not something, that's not an entity that I would want to worship as a god or whatever. Not that I believe that God really cares about worship, or really cares about this reality as it is. That we're just kind of here creating it ourselves, but that's for another matter altogether. But yeah, just because somebody's vegan, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, number one, that they're aware, that they're intelligent, or that they're even like a decent, goodly person. Um, and it's the same thing in any other community, whether it's like the red pill community, right? MGTOW. I know I've spoken about MGTOW and men's issues on this channel in previous videos, but I sympathize with a lot of their sentiments, because uh, they are speaking a lot more sense, and they are a lot more grounded in reality than certainly the flip side of the coin, which is feminism, or the other side of the spectrum, which is feminism, where they're just it's just openly it's just pretty openly just about destroying men, and that's essentially what has been the case and has been the agenda, because men are the ones who are going to, um, by and large, not to say that there aren't some women out there, some really great women out there who aren't gonna like take up arms and try to uh, kick some ass or whatever. But by and large, when you're talking about an encroaching police state and things like that, it's going to be the men who are going to put up the most resistance, right, to a totalitarian rule. So it makes sense that the men would be targeted in a society that is being degenerated, and being pushed more and more towards the brink of, like I said, totalitarianism. So again, a lot of these red pill people, getting back to that whole thing, yes, the men's rights movement, the MGTOW, the Manosphere as it's called. I do sympathize with it, and I do support it in a lot of way, and I do support the idea, the concept of men going their own way, because there are just so many traps set up, laid down specifically to fuck men over. And so MGTOW as a concept is a very valid idea, has a very valid point fundamentally speaking. Now that being said, a lot of these MGTOW guys, they sort of miss the boat with a lot of other issues going on. They just want to think that everything is just, we should just blame everything on women and blame everything on feminism, and it's female voting patterns and blah blah blah, all this crap, as if voting actually really matters, counts. They don't fudge the numbers, and they're not gonna put in office who they want in office, the string pullers of these politicians. And yes, they are getting their strings pulled. It's pretty blatantly obvious. The people doing it are pretty much bragging about it, and have been since time immemorial. Yeah, a lot of these red pillars, they're not really nearly as red pilled as they think they are, and certainly learning and is a constant unfoldment. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but again, it's about that process of introspection that I spoke about earlier. That's really, really important, and that people are lacking in every sort of movement that's out there. I'm not comfortable with this idea of just swearing off women completely and just painting all women with a nasty brush, and this thing that they're all rotten and evil and whatever. And I don't believe that most people who identify as MGTOW really believe that, but there does seem to be a growing number of men that do, that just say, yeah, we're just going to sit here and tar women and just want to blame women for everything, when in fact it's just, I know for a fact that there are some really, really great women out there. So and women are just people. They're not goddesses, they're not princesses, they're not They're not demons necessarily. They're just people. They're individual souls, and that tends to be my overriding mode of operation. Is that I just look at people as individuals, as souls. And yes, while there is a larger social fabric going on where things are very heavily tilted against men, especially in regards to the legal system, and also the in the media and the cultural, the sort of the social engineering, what you can call it, and it's interwoven into the social fabric that yes, men are predatory and toxic and these sorts of things, and if women were just more like men, I'm sorry, if men were just more like women, then the world would just be such a better place and a more peaceful place, right? Because as if women across the board are just these peaceful, like loving, gentle, compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic creatures, which is what we're taught as men growing up, that we ought to give women this special consideration. I've been there myself, where I have given women special consideration in spite of my own personal experiences, blatantly showing that that position is completely unreasonable, when women are at least every bit as lousy and crappy and immoral and degenerate and capable of horrible, despicable acts of violence and depravity as men are. The only difference is that men are held accountable. Women very often get absolved of accountability with those sorts of things. So anyway, that's it for now. Just wanted to give you guys a bit of an update in terms of where I'm at and what's been on my mind lately. And again, hope this finds you well. Show your thoughts in the comments as always, and I'll talk to you real soon. Peace.